Hey, what's up coders, welcome back to my channel. Today we will see how to implement drop-down feature in your Flutter application, and the items that are available in the drop-down are not static. In fact, they are retrieved from the Firestore. Well, the implementation is pretty simple and straightforward, but as a developer you need to know how to handle data from the Firestore and display it in the drop-down. Well, there are a couple of options that you could actually add in your drop-down, which could be like a multi-choice select drop-down or personalized drop-down. Now, what I mean by personalized drop-down is, say for example, if you have different user profiles, you would like to display different drop-down menu items for each profile. So these kind of tasks could be performed using drop-down, but for that we need to understand the basics of drop-down and how to retrieve data from the backend. Maybe in my upcoming videos I can cover those functionalities, but today we will see the basic part. Alright, so moving on to the demo section, this is a very simple form which has 3 fields and a 2 drop-down. Now, the reason that I chose 2 drop-down is to show you that variation of one drop-down where the data is retrieved from the static and the other one where the data is retrieved from the Firestore. So if you look at the choose account type, this is where the data is available in a list, and the choose currency type, this is the one where the data is retrieved from the Firestore. So let me show you the backend setup. Alright, so moving on with the implementation, first thing you need to set up your project on the Firebase console. I've covered these topics on all my Firestore CRUD operation videos, so I'll leave a link in the description. Please do watch those videos to understand how to set up the project if you've not done it before. So all you have to do is create the project, then you would get a JSON file. Make sure that you add your JSON file in the app directory as I have done here, which is the Google service JSON, and then add the dependencies, which is your class path here, and then in the app level Gradle file, make sure that you add this plugin, which is the Google service, and make sure that you perform the migration in case if you get the error, and also add the dependency, which is the Firebase core. And in your pub spec, that's the only plugin that I add, which is the Cloud Firestore, and this is the version that I'm using. So I'll leave a link in the description with all these details. So this is a very mandatory basic setup that you need to do in order to communicate with the Firestore and get the details from the backend. So once you're done with it, then you have to come to the database section, and then make sure that you choose the Cloud Firestore and not the real-time database. So, and then make sure that you enable the test mode, create a database. Then the first thing you have to do is create a collection and then add details that you would like to display it in your dropdown. Once you have done all this, that's when you are good to go with your implementation of your dropdown in your Flutter application. So let's move on to the Flutter side of it to see how we can retrieve these details in our application. Alright, I think I forgot to mention one thing in the demo. When I'm selecting the drop-down values, it's just not that I'm displaying it. I can also select and display the one that I'm selecting here. So for example, if I choose Canadian dollar, you can see that I get the snack bar with the drop-down item that I have selected. Similarly, if I choose British pound, I get the same value. So here you are retrieving the data from the Firestore, and at the same time you can also select, and depending on your use case you can use that data to retrieve few more details or just display it here as a text. And similar way with the static one, I'm just using a print statement to display it. So I'm going to use deposit, so you can see here I get the deposit value. And then if I use savings, you can see savings. So it's totally up to you what you would like to do with the selected data. If you would just like to pass it on back to the Firestore for a particular profile, you could do it. So this was something that I missed out during the demo section. So there you go. So let's move on with the implementation. Alright, so first let's understand the structure of this UI, and then it would be easy for us to build on it. So here it's a simple app bar first, and then I have a form, And inside the form I have a list view, because you can see all the items are just one below the other and then a button. So it's a list view with the first text form field, the second one, third, and then two drop downs, and then submit. So today in this video I will not focus on the form fields. My focus would be on the drop down. Maybe I can have a separate video for the form fields and we can discuss more about validation, a couple of other features about a form. Yeah, so this is how the structure is going to be. So first let me design one and show you how it looks, then I can replicate the same for the other. First thing, you need the package. So make sure you have the Cloud Firestore package updated here, and then you have the main app, which is a stateless widget, and this calls my home page. And in my home page it is a stateful widget, and then an app bar comes with a leading, title, and action. So if you've watched my videos, I follow this particular pattern in almost every single video. So if you don't know how to do it, just watch any of my videos, you would find this app bar structure. And after the app bar, the body section. So here comes the form. So the first thing what we are going to do is we're going to create the form. Inside the form, I'm going to give a parameter. I'm going to use the attribute called key, and for this I'm going to give a value called form key value, and then I'm going to say auto validate true. Now here comes the list view. Inside our list view, we're going to add the array of children widgets. So before that, I'm just going to give some padding. Then inside the children widget, I'm going to add my first text form field. Now when you define a text form field, you need few parameters to be added into it. So I'm going to use an icon and a text. That's what the pattern that I'm going to follow. So if you look here, I have an icon and a text. So for that, first thing I'm going to use an input decoration, that is decoration. Inside this, I'm going to add an icon. Then next is this is what is required for a single text form field. Now let's quickly add the global key. So let's look at the first form field on the emulator. There you go. So you can see that the icon and the name is the label text, and the hint text is enter your name. So when you click on it, you get that enter your name. So that is the one added in your hint text. So this way I'm going to create the other two form fields. So I've added all the three fields. So let's have a look at the emulator. There you go. You can see all the three fields updated. Now if you look at the UI, the next one is the drop down. So first let's add the static list. So first I'll create the drop down which uses the data from the list, and then I'll show you how to create the drop down that retrieves the data from the Firestore. I'm just gonna add few spacing here. I'm gonna add a row widget because I want the icon and the drop down next to each other. So before that, let's create our static data for the account type. So we have created our static data. Now let's add the icon and the drop down to display this. So if you want to create a simple drop down, this is how you do it. So first thing, I'm going to give a main axis alignment. I'm going to add an icon quickly. So now let's create the drop down. So to create the drop down, first thing you need is a drop down. Inside the drop down, the first thing is the items, because that's the mandatory property that you have to use. Now, since I'm using a static type and I've already defined the data, I'm just going to use the account type. Now, if you look as to what the account type is, it's nothing but my list. We have to say map, give a value, then we have to add it in a drop-down menu item. So this is where it would display those account type values. So first thing is drop-down menu item. Now inside the drop-down menu item, you need to display your details. So I'm going to use a text. Inside the text, first thing is your value, the value that you get from your account type. And then here you can add icons inside your drop down. If in case if you want to display an icon next to a drop down, you could do it. But I'm going to keep it simple with just a text value and then just give a color property to it. And then I'm going to add another property called value. So we have added this. Let's format it. And we are missing a to list. So let's quickly add that also. This is just to display a drop down. Now, what if I have to select a drop down and display the selected value? Then that's entirely different. So you have to use onChanged property. So let's say onChanged and say selected account type, whatever, depending on your use case. And then I'm going to say set state. And I'm going to create a variable here. Now the name could be anything, so I'm going to say variable. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say on set state selected type is equals to selected account type. I'm going to use the value. I'm going to set the value to the selected type. This way you get the selected value displayed when you select the particular item from your drop down. We have few more properties. This is completely optional, like the hint text, which is to display. So if you see here, I have choose account type, choose currency type. So this text can be updated using this property, which is called hint. So another property is expanded false. This is how you create a drop down, get your static values, update it, and then add on changed, saying if I change the drop down value, this has to get updated, and update the selected value and then hint. So let's see how it looks on the emulator. Alright, so I've built this, and you can see the drop down reflecting on the emulator. So when I click on this, you can see the data from the list displayed here. So this is how you display a static data in your drop down item. Make sure that you have your drop down button and a drop down menu item. Next, we have to create the drop down menu, and the data that is retrieved is from the Firestore. Let's see how to do it. So the first thing is we need to add a sized box just to give that extra space. So the size box is done. Now you have to use stream builder. Now you must have seen in my Firestore CRUD operation videos, I've used a stream builder. So use a stream builder, and inside your stream builder, the first thing, okay, you need to add query snapshot. Alright, so first thing is you need the stream and a builder. These are the two properties that you need in a stream builder. So the stream is nothing but your snapshot instance. So in our case, it would be Firestore dot instance dot collection and the name of the collection. So in my case, it is currency. In a moment, I'll show you the details of the collection, and then I'm going to say snapshot. Well, this is the part that I have to enter in my stream. So you can see that I've used the same name. So first we have the snapshot. Next is the builder. So in the builder, we pass two parameters. The first one is the context, and the next one is the snapshot. Inside this, the first thing that we have to consider always is to check if the data is empty or not. So for that, we are going to say snapshot dot has data. If it does not have data, you could display a dialog, you could display a snack bar. So as of now, I'm just using a text saying it's loading. So the other condition would be else. So in the else is where you get your items. So in my case, what I've done is first I've created a list, because we'll follow a similar procedure like the one we did for the static. So let's get the list, and then we will add it in the drop down menu, items, and then use drop down button to display them. So first thing, create a list, and I'm going to define it empty. Next, I'm going to create a for loop so that it could loop through all my documents, or it could loop through all the currency values. So I'm going to say I less than, the detail that it has to loop through is snapshot data dot documents dot length. So I'm going to loop through this. Now when I loop through this, I have to add all these details in a list. This is one approach of doing it. Definitely you can find different approaches of doing it. So I'm going to add all the documents that I'm getting from the Firestore to this list. Inside this, I'm going to use drop down menu item, and then I'm going to say child text. Inside the text, I'm going to say snap. I think I missed one thing. I have to get the instance of my snapshot. So for that, I have to use document snapshot, and then I can say we cannot use it again, so I'm just going to give it snap, and this is what gets the first document details, and that is what you have to pass it in your drop down menu item. So here, and then we're going to use document ID, and then I'm just going to give some styling and some color, and then you have to display that value. This is very important. So the value that will get displayed, this is what is your drop down menu item. Now we have to define the drop down button, that is on change what has to be displayed and how to display the selected value. Alright, so let's add those details. So if you look at the UI, I have an icon and then I have a drop down. So as of now, what we have done is we have just retrieved these details by connecting to the Firestore. Now let's define this icon and this drop down button. So for that, this part was retrieving the details, and now here I'm going to say return and then add the row, return row. And since I'm using a row because the icon and the drop down is next to each other, so first I'll display the icon. Alright, so we have defined the icon. Now let's define the drop down button. Inside the drop down button, the first thing is the items. Now in our static drop down scenario, the drop down button had the list name, but here the item would be your currency items. This currency item is nothing but the list name that I had defined here, which was the empty list, and then we started adding the document details from the Firestore. So this one has all our item details. So that's what is gonna get inside the drop down button. That's it. Now this is something that I've added on change, that is when I click or when it gets changed, what it has to do. So on changed, I'm gonna pick that value and I'm gonna give currency value. I'm gonna display it on a snack bar. So first let's define a snack bar. So I've retrieved the same value and I'm adding it in my snack bar. now we have to display the snack bar. So for that we use, and then I'm going to use set state. We got to define another variable selected like we did for the static one also, and here I'm going to assign the changed value. And this value holds the selected currency value. And then I'm going to add the same properties that I added for the static one, which is expanded or dense. And then I'm going to add a hint text drop down where the details are retrieved from the Firestore. So the first thing I have used a stream builder. I've got the instance of the collection, which is the currency. Now if you look at the name of the currency, it is this one. And then I have checked if the data is empty or not. If not, then I'm creating an empty list, and then looping through all those documents and adding those document values inside this empty list. So that way first I'm getting the details. Now once I have the details, I have to display it in my drop down button. So for that I'm creating a drop down button, adding those currency item here, and then I'm saying on changed. That is, whenever I click on the drop down and when I select one of the item, I have to display it, or I have to work on that particular data or pass the data to the next page or something. So in order to retrieve the data, I'm using a snack bar here and then updating the drop down with the selected value. So that's what I'm doing here. So this is how you add it. So let's quickly build this and I'll show you how it looks. So I have built this and you can see the currency type also appearing here. So I'm going to select one, say I'm going to select US dollars, and there you go, you can see the US dollars reflecting in the snack bar. Now I'm going to add another new currency inside my Firestore, and let's see if it gets displayed in our drop down. I'm going to quickly add a new document. So I'm going to say I'm going to add a Hong Kong dollar. The other field's empty, and I've saved this, and let's have a look at the drop down, and there you go. So you can see the new document reflecting here. Alright, so this is how you retrieve data from Firestore and display it in your drop down. And also I've shown you another variation of how to define or how to create a drop down with static data also. If you like this video, if you do like, please give it a like and do subscribe. And if you find this informative, please do share it. Thank you.